everybody, welcome back to America TV. Back again with me, Fifi, and I want to welcome all of our audience and members joining us online. I hope you are doing well and, of course, staying safe during this pandemic of COVID-19. And for those of you guys who are joining for the first time, welcome to America TV. So yes, America is the U.S. Embassy American Center here in Jakarta, and our mission is to provide a space for your Indonesians to learn more about the United States. And yes, we're temporarily moved to a solid digital platform, but don't worry, you can still enjoy us from the comfort of your own home. And for those of you guys who is joining from our social media platform live, don't worry, you can leave your question for the Q&A section at the comment box for each platform of our social media live. And today we're going to discuss, can you guess? Yes, World Orangutan Day 2020. And before we're going to start the event, I'd like to break the ice with a little game. So I already have the question for the quiz for today. And the question is, true or false, orangutans have immense arm spans ranging nearly 7 feet from tip to tip? Yes, you can also answer the question by commenting from our live of our social media platform. You can answer from Facebook, maybe you are from Twitter, from Instagram Live, from YouTube, or maybe from our website. And don't forget to stay tuned until the end of the program, because I will give live shout out to you guys with the correct answer. And one more thing, don't forget to take a selfie and tag at America's Instagram account during the event. Alright, I think that's it from me. And before we're going to start the event, I'd like to invite Ibu Bini Lee, Economic Officer from U.S. Embassy Jakarta, for the opening remarks.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the virtual program for World Orangutan 2020. My name is Benny Lee, and I am the Economic Officer covering conservation issues for the U.S. Embassy in Jakarta. Thank you for joining us today for highlighting one of Indonesia's emblematic species, the orangutan. Literally, man of the forest, this intelligent great ape is found only on the islands of Sumatra and Kalimantan, or Borneo, and the three subspecies are unusual for great apes as they spend most of their time in trees. The orangutan is a unique animal which plays a key role in the health and diversity of an ecosystem. All three subspecies are considered critically endangered and continues to suffer from poaching and loss of habitat. Now, these orangutans share 97% of their DNA with humans, us. This genetic similarity puts primates at risk of contracting human diseases. With the global pandemic, there's also a very real concern that zoonotic diseases like COVID can also affect primates, adding another layer of complexity in saving this critically endangered species. Today, we're excited to welcome several orangutan experts to help us expand our understanding of these great creatures and what we can do to support conservation efforts during the pandemic. I'd like to thank our panelists, Carmel Sanchez from International Animal Rescue, Dr. Jamarchan Sihite from the Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation, and Ian Singleton from the Sumatran Orangutan Conservation Program. I'd also like to thank Ristika Putri Istani from Lingkar Temu Kabupaten Lestari for moderating today's program. Thank you again, and I hope you're inspired by today's program to help protect one of the iconic species of Indonesia.
Thank you, Ibu Beni, for the warm welcome. And now, I'd like to pass it to our moderator for tonight. Please welcome Mbak Ristika Putri Istanti from Lingkar Temu Kabupaten Lestari. The floor is yours.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Mbak Pipi, for your introductions. So I want to say Happy World Orangutan Day. And thank you for inviting me to join this webinar. And I want to introduce myself. My name is Ristika Putri Istanti from Sustainable District Association, or Lingkar Temu Kabupaten Lestari. And today, I will be moderate this webinar. Okay, so I want to say thank you for everyone to join this webinar in the YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or Instagram. And also, I want to say welcome to the U.S. consultant in Medan, and also the American Corner from University of Malaysia, Sabah, and also the American Corner from University of Tanjung Pura, Pontianak, and also welcome to the American Corner from University of Andalas, Padang. So How are you, everyone? So hopefully that you are well today and keep stay healthy because recently that we have big challenges during pandemic. But now I want to say happy World Orangutan Day and also happy Independence Day for Indonesia. And today I will share the agenda. We have the four sessions, and the first one we will have introduction, and the next session we have the presentation from the speaker, and there is a Q&A session, and the last one is the conclusion. And now, before I will introduce to the panelist expert. I will share to you because, like as we know that we have the Indonesian forest is the second largest in the world after the forest on the Brazil, and also we have the flagship species, and one of the species is the orangutan, and it is very proud if, as an Indonesian that we have the unique species and which is the orangutan. But recently that we have like challenges because during pandemic, how's the impact of the pandemic for the orangutan itself? There is a direct impact because of zoonosis on etc. And how's the community live in the nearby the orangutan habitat. So now I want to ask to the audience now to imagine. Could you imagine what happened if there is no orangutan in the world or in Indonesia? Is there is any impact for our daily life? So please put your answer to our comment box in the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or in Instagram, and I will reconfirm to the speaker later. Okay. And please use the chat box to give your name and where you come from, and you can know each other with the participants. So I will check it later. So to answer the question, now I will be introduced to the panelist experts. So now we have the three great speakers coming from the three organizations. So now I will introduce Bapak Jamatin Sihite as CEO from Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundations. So, how are you, Pak Martin? Good evening. I know that you are very busy today, right? And happy World Orangutan Day, Pak Martin. And the second speaker, so I want to hola Carmele Giano Sanchez from as a program director from International Animal Rescue Indonesia. Hi, Carmele.
Hola, hola.
Okay. Actually, everyone, Carmele is coming from Spain, so we have a different time zone now. So I cannot say good evening, but I say good afternoon, right? And last but not least, I will introduce Ian Singleton. Hi, Ian, from Sumatran Orangutan Conservation Program. So thank you for joining us today. And now let's get started. I know that you already excited to get more updated information from the speaker. And I just to remind you, if you have any questions, please put your comment or questions to our platform via YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter or Instagram. And I will ask your question to the speaker after the presentation session. And don't forget to mention your name, where you come from. Okay, so let's get started. I want to start coming from the ladies one, I think. So I will invite uh, Carmele Giano Sanchez from as a program director from International Animal Rescue Indonesia. So before Carmele starting the presentation, as a background, actually Carmele as a veterinarian, actually, and I'm really excited because she has interesting story why she to be as a program director in International Animal Rescue and how she has experiences and how to treat orangutan. So to answer the question is how's the impact of the COVID-19 for the orangutan. So Carmele will explain more about that one. So you have 15 minutes, Carmele, and I will remind you if you have 2 minutes left. And so the time is yours, Carmele.
Thank you so much, Ristika, and everybody at the US Embassy. It's a real pleasure to be with all of you today. So maybe I'm gonna ask the IT team to share my presentation. And I would like to start today by saying that we are living very unprecedented times. When normally we will be face to face today in this special day, the World Orangutan. Now we have to do everything remotely. And of this pandemic is affecting our lives, but it's not only affecting our lives, it's also affecting the lives of the orangutans. When normally we don't really talk so much about diseases, I think in these times, nowadays, talking about health and diseases has become really, really important. Next. So just next. Thank you. So just give you a little bit of background about International Animal Rescue. We run a rehabilitation center for orangutans. Is the previous one, sorry? We run a rehabilitation center for orangutans. We rescue orangutans in Ketapan, is the West Kalimantan province. We focus rehabilitation efforts and trying to give the opportunity to those orangutans that can be turned back to the wild. But working in the rehabilitation efforts means that it's only about how we are going to rescue orangutans, but about tackling the root of the problem. And the root of the problem, as I'm going to explain today, is about protecting habitat, about educating, and about ensuring that the communities can have a better life. So next. If we are talking about the situation of the orangutans, the plight of the orangutans, we are, it's a very critical situation. Orangutans are now considered critical. It's been since 2016, since IUCN has upgraded the orangutans as critically endangered, Bornean orangutans. Some of the data that we have about the population of orangutans is that only in about 60 years, in the last 60 years, we have lost over 60% of the total population of orangutans. If with that rate of population loss, by 2025, we will have lost over 86% of the total population of orangutans. Next. So what problems? Why are we losing orangutans? Habitat loss. We know that there are many problems why we are losing habitat. And in fact, also in the last 40 years, we have lost over 40% of all the habitat, the orangutan habitat. What are the causes for habitat loss? Land use change. Forests are being converted into agricultural land, but also other forms such as mining, illegal logging, and fires. Next. Forest fires are in fact right now the main factor for that is affecting orangutan populations in West Kalimantan. We have large areas of peat forest, peatlands. We have suffered a few years of long dry seasons that have been very prone to have forest. We have lost massive areas of habitat of orangutans due to the fires. In these fires, orangutans can sometimes be killed. They are burnt alive. Sometimes they suffer because they lose their habitat. They have nothing to eat and they starve. And we know that these forest fires are not only affecting orangutan lives, they are also affecting our lives. It's not only the smoke haze that is affecting human health, but it's also the disruption of all the activities. Planes have grounded because it's impossible to fly. And another problem of the forest fires is the carbon emissions. Climate change aggravated because of the emissions of these that are caused by these forest fires. Next. So this habitat loss is actually becoming a new problem because it's making orangutans more easily killed. Poaching is increasing as well. Now we have more roads. Forests where orangutans live have become more accessible. And that's also bringing another problem, is human-orangutan conflict. What is human-orangutan conflict? Basically, we as humans are competing with orangutans for habitat because they lose their home, because they lose their where they can eat. They are forced to enter human settlements. They are forced to enter plantations. They are forced to compete with humans, and sometimes as a consequence are killed. Next. Another consequence of these forest loss, the habitat loss, and the killing of the orangutans is also the wildlife pet trade. Very often when female orangutans, adult orangutans have babies, when the mothers are killed, the babies are taken into the pet trade. They are sold in markets, they are sold to people that want to have them as pets. That's a huge problem for the welfare of these animals. Next. But now we are going to focus on another risk. It's the risk of transmission of diseases. This has now become very important, a very important factor, especially since COVID. But infectious diseases have been a problem for populations of great apes. It's very well documented how infectious diseases have wiped out the entire populations of great apes in Africa. And this is a problem that we can't ignore and that could happen as well for the population of orangutans in Indonesia. This risk of diseases, sometimes it can be zoonosis or diseases that are transmitted from humans to orangutans, because zoonoses are not only diseases that are transmitted from animals to humans, but also the other way around. Because orangutans are very similar to humans and we share over 98% of our DNA, it's very likely that our diseases can affect orangutans too. But also, obviously, because of all the reasons I was explaining before about the habitat loss, how orangutans are becoming under pressure to be closer to humans, the risk of transmission of diseases is only increasing. Next. And obviously, one of the most important diseases is COVID-19, which is having an impact on the orangutans. This is what we are discussing today. So far and to date, we haven't been able to scientifically prove whether COVID-19 is a disease that can be transmitted to orangutans. But again, because of the of orangutans being so similar to humans, it is very likely that this disease can also be transmitted to humans. And in the case that this happened, it is very likely that this could have fatal consequences for these populations of orangutans under threat. That could affect not only the orangutans at the rehabilitation centers, not only orangutans in captivity, but even orangutans in the wild. But some other impacts that are maybe not, that are indirect impacts of this financial impact. We know that we are living a global financial crisis. all our organizations, our centers depend on the donations from individuals, donations from organizations. And obviously, since this situation is affecting global economy, it's very likely that this will have an impact for our centers too, and the ability to raise funds. But one more impact that is important to mention is this anthropogenic pressure on natural resources, as all these people who have lost their jobs, and especially in the tourism sector, are being put under pressure because they have lost their livelihoods. It's more likely that they're going to turn into countries or to hunt wildlife. And this is another impact we are going to start seeing now. Next. And just emphasizing again about the problem of diseases well, we are basically living in an era of pandemics. Just to give you an overview, emerging diseases are those diseases that were considered unknown, or that maybe they were already there, but we didn't know about them, emerging diseases or new diseases. 70% of those diseases are zoonotic. That means that they come from animals that can be transmitted to humans. More data about this, even up to 2 new viruses spill over from natural hosts, from animals into humans a year in the last decade. So this is also increasing the likelihood of a disease or a pathogen to become a new pandemic in the future. Some of the examples of diseases that have jumped from animals to humans are Nipah virus, Ebola virus. We know that Ebola is a deadly disease that has affected many countries in Africa, has wiped out populations of great apes as well. HIV is a pathogen, a virus that jumped from great apes into humans because of consumption of great ape meat, but also other diseases like avian influenza, SARS, but COVID-19 as well. So it's this interaction between humans and animals because of all this loss of habitat. We are more prone to be close to animals like orangutans because of the conflict situations, because of the pet trade. These are all the factors that are increasing the likelihood of transmission of diseases from animals to humans. And in fact, there is large evidence, scientific evidence, that habitat loss, the reduction of biodiversity, land use change, as well as illegal wildlife trade, poaching, killing, and consumption, are the 2 main factors influencing the emergence of diseases in humans. Next. So if we talk about these 2 main factors, habitat loss, land use change, and illegal wildlife trade, as being the main factors that are going to bring new emerging diseases and the potential for new pandemics in the future. If we want to save the planet, and if we want to save humans from the effect of these pandemics, we have to save the forest, and we have to save the animals that live in it. So basically, if we save the orangutans, we can also save the planet, because we live in one health, we live in one ecosystem. The environment cannot be separated from the animals cannot be separated from humans, and that's all what one health means. So it's more important than ever before, not only for the sake of saving the orangutans, but for the sake of saving humans and for saving us, humans, from the potential of a new disease that maybe COVID is not the last one, and we have to get ready for it. And the only way that we are avoid and we're going to prevent these pandemics in the future is by saving this forest. Next. Thank you very much. I hope I didn't use any more of my time because it's very difficult to keep it in 15 minutes. I think any of my colleagues would look like about 2 hours to explain everything. So hopefully this is just a overview of the situation we are facing. Thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you, Carmele, Jano Sanchez. It's very interesting presentation. Actually, Carmele, you still have like 14 seconds left. So that's great presentation. So, and it's very interesting from Carmele's statement that you mentioned that the impact of the COVID-19 for orangutan is like you mentioned there is like kind of like the zoonosis house from the human to the orangutans and also financial impact. So it's not only about the orangutans because it's impact to financial too, right? And the last one you mentioned about the anthropogenic pressure. So following that Carmele mentioned, so please, if you have any question for Carmele, so put your questions in our platform. So you can comment to the YouTube and Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Okay, so following that, Carmela mentioned before about how the challenges on the COVID-19, especially for the orangutan. I want to invite the next speaker. So this speaker is by Jamartin Sihite, as CEO from Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation. So, Pak Jamartin, good evening, Bapak.
Good evening.
I want to say congratulations actually, Pak, because today Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation have the virtual event, right? The name is the Hangout with Orangutan. It's very interesting. And I want to say too, congratulations because Pak Jamartin and also both foundations have like getting award from as the Pongo Environmental Award. And it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Pak. But congratulations once again. It's very interesting. And so now we want to get more explanation and more information from Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundations and from Pak Jamartin, how's the effort and how to deal with COVID-19 during this pandemic and how the both foundations and Pak Jamartin and his team trying to prevent the transmission to orangutan. So you have 15 minutes, Pak. So I will remind you if there is 2 minutes left and the time is yours, Pak.
Okay, thank you, Carmele. You explain more detail, and then I don't want to repeat it again. Yeah. I will share some presentation from my computer. 15 minutes. It's not easy to use only 15 minutes on talking about the orangutan. Okay. I will try to explain our works in orangutan, save their habitat. It means if you make an action to save the orangutan, it should be one packet with the forest. Forest and the orangutan is the same. Yeah. Just to let you some short video.
The rainforest is a garden filled with thousands of fruit and vegetable species. Orangutans help this garden thrive by dispersing their seeds. Like a gardener, they know when fruits are ready to eat. And like a gardener, they spread seeds for future harvests. How do we know they are so good at dispersing seeds? We look at their feces. Orangutan poo can contain over 100 seeds. Some seeds will drop 75 meters away from the parent tree. Seeds that pass through the orangutan's digestive tract are more likely to germinate compared to seeds that are spat out. And by breaking branches to build their nests, sunlight reaches the forest floor, allowing it to regenerate. Orangutans are also believed to be the sole dispersers of certain fruits, making their gardening duty even more critical. As a keystone species, Orangutans have an integral function in the ecosystem, regenerating forest from the bottom up. Keeping orangutans in the forest keeps the forest healthy and alive.
Yeah, I just want to share this video. This is the many times we got the question why we have to save the orangutan. We have to save the orangutan. We have to protect the orangutan. It's not because the orangutan is so cute, but this is because the benefit. If we save the orangutan, if we protect the orangutan, the benefit will come to us as a human. We got the benefit when we protect the orangutan in the forest. Okay, now who is BOS Foundation? BOS Foundation is an Indonesian NGO. We start in Indonesia, dedicated to conservation of Bornean orangutan and their home and forest. And after we started in Indonesia, we make it the brands, call it brands, but we make it name it BOS Sister. We have a BOS Sister in UK, in German, in Australia and Swiss. And I hope this year we will start BOS America. And what is the work of BOS Foundation? The first one, we working in the orangutan reintroduction. We rescue, we release, we rehabilitate the orangutan and then send them back to forest. Orangutan belongs to forest. If we protect the orangutan without forest, it means it will be better we working in the zoo. But BOS Foundation working with the orangutan and forest. It means the orangutan will rehabilitate and send them back to the forest. But like Mary explained before, some orangutan that we rescue, we cannot release them back to the wild. Why? Because people taking care of the orangutan and put them like a pet, like their daughter, the boy, and train them to be like a human, and they lost the capacity to be wild. And the other one, the orangutan got human disease like tuberculosis, and then they can release to the wild. And BOS Foundation developed island, a sanctuary for the orangutan. Because in our program now, we need to make all orangutan living with tree, yeah, not with the cages. And the other one, we have a project or program, orangutan conservation in Mawas area. This is a peat swamp forest, ex-mega rice project. We have almost 300,000 hectares peat swamp forest there, and almost 2,500 orangutan, white orangutan living there. And the fourth one that we're working with the orangutan conservation is sustainable community development. Based on our experience working 30 years now, next year we will be 30 years working in this field, this orangutan conservation. Don't talk conservation with the hungry people, because the hungry people will be close to the angry people. And some people angry, they will forget anything about the conservation. That's why BOS Foundation developed sustainable community development. This is our works. We're working in East Kalimantan, we're working in Central Kalimantan. In 1991 we started, and then we released orangutan in Sungai Protection Forest, and then moving to Beratus Protection Forest, and then we have our rehabilitation center in East Kalimantan in Samboja Lestari. Samboja Lestari will be part of the new capital of Indonesia. And we release orangutan from Samboja going to Roywan release site. This is a restoration company. We pay the license of logging company, and we use it as a release site for the orangutan. And the other one is Mawas, like I said, ex-mega rice project is a peat swamp forest. And then we have environmental is our rehabilitation center. Mostly if you're watching the Orangutan Island or now Orangutan Jungle School, the mostly of documentary coming from Nyarumenteng. And there's a Salat Island. We have 2,000 hectares forest in island, and then we use this island as a sanctuary for the unreleasable orangutan in the future. And then we release orangutan in Bukit Batika Protection Forest, and then in Bukit Baka, Bukit Raya. If here in the north part of Bukit Baka, Bukit Raya, we are in the south part of that national park. And then we total orangutan in our center is 429, and on top of the orangutan, we have sunbears too. This is the program of BOS Foundation. We released 400 in the first decade, and then the second decade we released no orangutan, almost zero. And then start from 2012, we already released more than 400 orangutan. And then we have 20 baby born in the wild. Fighting COVID. Okay, like Armela explained about the zoonosis, the problem is we don't know how deadly the COVID-19. That's why we try to protect our staff and the orangutan. Since we know there is a COVID-19 in Indonesia, we stop people coming to our center. We stop a volunteer program. We stop visitor coming. We stop researcher coming. Because with the more than 97% DNA similar, we afraid. Yeah, like Amel said, there is no evidence, scientific evidence how deadly the coronavirus to orangutan, but we try to make the wall to protect the orangutan, our staff, too risky for us if some orangutan got the problems from the COVID. And the other one, we have orangutan with respiratory problem in our center. That's why the risk is too high. This is our program. Yeah, after the COVID, we make the wall. Everybody who come to our center, no matter who is he, we make all the tests. We make the disinfectant because in East Kalimantan we have 122 orangutan. Is social distance is not easy to make it there. In Central Kalimantan, we have more orangutan there, and the risk is too high for us. That's why we make the very tight procedure to try to make the wall to protect the staff, to protect the orangutan from the COVID-19. Yeah, we're doing everything to make disinfectant and so on and so on. And obstacle and challenge that we have, air circulation and tuberculosis, we found in our orangutan in our rescue center. With the comorbid like this, it's too risky for them. It's easy for them to get COVID-19. If we make it the human as an analogy. With the respiratory problem in our center, we have 31 orangutan with got the problems, and then in environmental we have 12. That's why we try to make it. We are not paranoid. We are not afraid, but we try to make the wall to protect our staff and our team from the COVID-19. Like Carmela said, the impact of the COVID-19 is not only for the orangutan, for the healthy of orangutan, but it will be impact to the social economic problem. Every things that we need, because we need personal equipment, protection, the price increased so high, and then all of the gear we use it double than before. This is the impact of the COVID-19 to our operation. Yeah, but we try to make it a standard operating procedure in our team to make it a protection to the team. And the other one, we try to protect all of the orangutan by protect our staff. That's why after we make it the tight procedure, standard operating procedure to protect them, and we make the health test. Some people say rapid test is not enough, but as indicators, use that. We got help from national agency to make the rapid test in our team to make sure everybody who come to the orangutan they are healthy. And yeah, my last one is just to say the future of orangutan is in our hands. If we working together, we can protect the orangutan and make them living for the forever in this world. Yeah, do it together with us, and then we will make the orangutan. Our grandchild could see the orangutan. I think that's my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Paja Martin. Actually, you still have like 3 minutes left. So if you want to add more, please, Pak, you have anything that you want to mention?
Yeah, this day is the International Orangutan Day. Yeah, but based on our experience working 30 years in orangutan, almost 30 years, we could protect the orangutan. We could make the orangutan living forever if we could working together. We should working together, working hand in hand. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
It is really a great message from Pak Jamartin because like the collaboration is the key, right, Pak? We cannot do alone, but we have to do together. It's not only about NGOs or government, but we can do together and with the communities. So like Pak Jamartin mentioned before that the battle plan like for fighting the COVID-19 is like the precaution is a must. Like how the Boss Foundation trying to prevent the transmissions, that they have the protocol, they have like disease risk analysis to make sure that the orangutan cannot be contract with the COVID-19. And also the most challenges is not only about the disease or zoonosis to the orangutan, but also like the logistic challenge, right? But because like it has the social and economic impact to the organization, like Carmela mentioned before too. So thank you so much for Paja Martin. So everyone, if you have any questions, please don't forget to ask the questions in our platform. You can put it in the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Don't worry, I will ask to the speaker. So now we are moving to the last speaker, but I know it's he's the only one. So I want to invite Bapak Ian Singleton as a conservation director from Sumatran Orangutan Conservation Program. And actually, Pak Ian is one of the co-author to finding the new species of the orangutans. It is Tapanuli orangutan. So I want to, actually, personally, that I want to hear more about what is the Tapanuli orangutan. So how's the impact of the COVID-19? So you have 15 minutes, Pak Ian. So I will remind you if there is a 2 minutes left, and the time is yours, Pak.
Okay, are we sharing the screen already or not?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
already still. Okay, thank you very much for that, and thanks to the other guys for those wonderful presentations. I'm just going to try and give an overview of the situation here in Sumatra, some of the work that we're involved in, and again, some of the issues we're facing because of the COVID virus. I'll first try and just sort of point out that, as you know, the orangutans are great apes. And once you take all the hair off, there's really not much difference between them. They're anatomically almost identical, just differences in proportions of the skeleton and different organs, but essentially the same thing. So not just DNA-wise are they very similar, but anatomically they're very, very similar indeed.
Sorry, Ian. Ian, you still not share screen. So you still
Sorry
share
about that.
screen.
How do I do that? Zoom and then share screen.
Yeah. Yeah, cool.
Okay. Okay, so you can see from that once you get down to it and take all the hair off, the great apes are pretty much identical to each other, just differences in proportions of skeleton and organs and things like that. Now I'm not sharing the screen. Hold on. Why is that happening?
It's gonna click over the next.
Yeah. No. Okay. What's going on there? It worked fine before, didn't it?
Okay, just
Stop share.
go and
How about stop share and start again?
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Can you try it?
Start again.
Yeah, cool.
I can't share my screen because somebody else is sharing.
Sure. You can still enter it.
No, it's telling me I can't share my screen because somebody else is sharing.
Okay, sure. Just go ahead, Ian, and the committee will try to send to share screen. So you can go. Yeah, you can go, and we will share screen.
How do I do that?
Just stop screen, and we will share the screen.
Okay, so you want me to say next every time, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, here in Sumatra, we have two species of orangutans now. We've always known that there were orangutans down south of Lake Toba, just in the brown area on the map there, but we always considered that they were just an outlier of the Sumatran orangutan, Pongo abeli. But in 2010, a bunch of students, DNA people, started to study the genetics of the orangutan populations throughout the island, and eventually concluded that the genetics of the ones down south of Lake Toba was significantly different from those further north, and also similar to orangutans in Borneo, that justified the naming of a new distinct species of orangutan, the Tapanuli orangutan. So the Tapanuli orangutan is limited to that small patch of forest below Lake Toba there, and the Sumatran orangutan, Pongo abeli, is found mostly within the Losa ecosystem in the north that straddles the border of Aceh and North Sumatra province. Next. Oh, that's me. Yeah. Oh, we're working. It's me. So the Tapanuli orangutan, just as it was named, with only less than 800 remaining in the wild, immediately was recognized as a critically endangered species. It's only found in a very restricted area and has very small numbers. It's listed as one of the 25 world's most endangered primates, and it's considered probably almost certainly the most endangered great ape species in the world today. And one of the reasons for its precarious existence is the fact that not only is there less than 800 around, but they're already fragmented into smaller populations. So we tend to consider with orangutans that for a population to be viable in the long term, genetically viable and sustainable in the long term, hundreds, thousands of years, requires populations of 500 or more. Anything less than that is at best short-term viable. It's only going to be around for a few hundred years, and it's going to lose quite a lot of its genetic variability, which makes it more prone to changes in the environment or new diseases. It's less able to adapt to change. And then small populations less than 50, which we consider non-viable. They're going to go extinct no matter what we do due to things like inbreeding and the various different complications that leads to. But what we have now with the Tapanuli orangutan is if you see the red line on the map, that's the entire global distribution of the Tapanuli orangutan, a great ape species. And within the West Bloc, we've got just over 500 or so individuals, so that's potentially viable if we don't lose any more habitat or individuals. The East Bloc is around 160 individuals, so that's short-term viable at best if we can't get it connected again to the bigger population and interbreeding with that. And then a small fragment called the Dolok Sidwal population in the south there, which if it is separated from the West Batang Toru population, is not viable at all. And we really need to connect that back to the main population in order to give it a chance. So really, to give the Tapanuli orangutan its best possible chance of survival, we need to be working hard to build corridors and reconnect these already highly fragmented populations as soon as possible. The Sumatran orangutan further north, there are more of them, but 13,500 or so is not a lot. They're restricted to the Losa ecosystem, almost 85% of them are in there. And again, it is considered a critically endangered species. And sometimes people say, well, there's thousands of them, Ian, so why are you worried about them? So I always remind people that Barcelona's football stadium, the Nou Camp, seats 99,000 people. So all of the orangutans in Sumatra would sit quite easily behind the goal at one end of the stadium. And imagine just how vulnerable that makes them. One disease epidemic or one bomb or other catastrophe could easily wipe out such a small number of individuals like that. So what do? We've been working with the Sumatran Orangutan Conservation Program since 2001. One of the main activities, like Boss and Carmelia IAR, is dealing with this still common illegal pet trade in orangutans, people keeping pets illegally at home. These are often a byproduct of forest loss. They tend to be more numerous in areas where active forest destruction is taking place. You can imagine a scenario where the forest is destroyed. The orangutans that live there have no food anymore. They have to wander over a barren landscape. They bump into people with rifles and machetes and whatever other weapons. who shoot them and club them and cut them into pieces. And if young infants survive that process, it's those kind of animals that end up being taken home and kept as illegal pets. So we work with the authorities. We confiscate any that we find out, and we bring them to our quarantine and rehabilitation center just outside Medan. And the first thing they have to undergo there is thorough medical checks. Now, every individual that comes in is tested for tuberculosis, hepatitis A, B, C, herpes simplex 1 and 2. We check them for parasites. We give a full blood chemistry and full body checks. But just notice that these are all very, very common human ailments. They're not animal specific. They're all the same kind of illnesses and diseases that humans get in the area. And the way we test for them are exactly the same as we would do for humans. And the way we would treat them, again, would be exactly the same as we would for humans. I mean, so apart from the quarantine and rescue center, we also have a few other projects around the region, 10 main field sites. They include 3 field monitoring stations where students are able to study wild orangutan behavior and ecology in Secundur, Suwak Belimbing, and down in the Batang Toru area. But the 2 of interest are the Janto Reintroduction Center in the very far north of that map and the Jambi Reintroduction Center in the very far south. Now, in both of those areas, we've been introducing orangutans back into natural habitat, areas that historically there are records that state that orangutans did once occur there, but not for hundreds of years. And in both areas, we're gradually creating entirely new wild populations of orangutans. Now, the goal of this is to create these as safety net, or you would call them in the modern times backup populations. So should a catastrophe befall all the Sumatran orangutans in the Losar ecosystem or all the Tapanuli orangutans down in the Batang Toru ecosystem and wipe them out, such as a pandemic disease or some other issue, we wouldn't have lost orangutans completely from Sumatra. And we would hopefully have a couple of backup populations down in Jambi and Janto from which we would have a chance at building something back. So that's the goal there. And it's doing well, and both populations are now breeding naturally. We started reintroductions in Janto in 2011. We've now got babies being born on a regular basis. But these are the first infants ever conceived and born in the wild in these forests for many, many years, probably hundreds of years. We also have to deal with orangutans that we can't release to the wild. We've now got 8 individuals that can't be released, so we've secured some land just outside Medan. We call it the Orangutan Haven. There we're developing 9 man-made islands surrounded by water where these orangutans will be able to live out their days in relative comfort. They include animals like Losa on the top right there, who is blind due to being shot many times with an air rifle. You can see the pellets on the x-ray. And Hope there in the bottom left, who also blind due to being shot, but also had several other injuries and broken bones that we managed to patch up. Now, when we do have to intervene like that and perform surgery, we'll often use a human specialist. We don't necessarily call the vets because, as everybody's pointed out, the orangutans are way, way more similar to humans in just about every possible way than they are to other animals, cats, dogs, goats, rabbits, whatever you can think of. And so the best people to deal with these difficult cases are those with the most experience, and they tend to be the human specialists. And an example here is Dr. Andreas Messikomer on the left, a very well-known Swiss orthopedic surgeon who did a lot of surgery after the tsunami and has helped us out many times with broken bones among the orangutans that we've received. On the bottom right, a UK specialist soft tissue surgery team helping out with a rectal prolapse that was very complicated, and this animal is now living free in Jambi. And on the top there, Indonesian eye specialist that helped us perform surgery on cataracts on an elderly female that was blind. It was very successful, and she regained her sight completely and is now living wild in Janto. We also have to deal with a lot of respiratory diseases, which makes us very concerned about the threat of COVID. Orangutans have these very soft tissue throat sacs that are highly prone to infections, but they also regularly get the common cold and influenza. It's part of daily life. And this is just a picture again of somebody using a nebulizer exactly the same way as you would with a human. Now, once we realized that this COVID was so dangerous and we considered just how similar the orangutans are, we thought it's highly likely that they would be at risk. And then a study was published in April this year that looked at the enzyme. I've forgotten the name. Never mind. The ACE2 enzyme, yeah, which because its presence and it has the same number of amino acids, makes the apes just as likely to contract infections of SARS-CoV-2, which causes COVID-19 in people. And the reason for that is because the apes and all African primates and Asian primates seem to share these 12 amino acids that the virus binds to. I don't expect you to understand this graph, but you can see that the top third there, all the colors, the top line is humans, so all the colors up there are in the same order and the same pattern as humans, which makes all those species, the African and Asian primates, and especially the great apes, highly likely to be susceptible to this virus. Further down the table there, you've got some of the South American primates, which have some significant differences. They are probably also vulnerable, but not to the same degree. So the evidence is basically that there's every reason to expect orangutans to get this virus and to suffer from it, and very little evidence that they won't. So bearing that in mind, we had to immediately up our game. We sat down very quickly and started to discuss what we can possibly do to prevent infections among the orangutans and the staff as well, and also what to do if we do have an outbreak. So we had to develop quickly lots of new protocols and procedures, standard operating procedures to deal not only with preventing infections within the orangutans in our care and in the wild as well at the research stations, for example, but also what to do if there is an outbreak. And as with the other guys too, this has required a lot of us trying to secure a lot of new equipment to deal with the potential outbreaks, including PPE, personal protective equipment, which is massively inflated in price and much harder to obtain. So a big chunk of new costs that we have to deal with. We also immediately realized that we will still get orangutans coming into the center, and we wanted to absolutely minimize the chances of any infections among other orangutans. So we quickly raised funds to build 5 new emergency cages, completely walled off with a mesh roof to prevent birds and primates coming in, and the keepers here can shower and everything and change before they go in there. So it's completely isolated from any other orangutans on site. And as I say, this means a lot of new expenses. When we budgeted for 2020 at the start of the year, we had no idea we were going to get all these problems, so we didn't have funding allocated. So we've had to quickly upscale our fundraising effort, a lot of new proposals, making use of crowdfunding opportunities, and all those different means in order to meet the new demands. Now, I'm happy to say that we're kind of stable on that. We feel that we've got what we need to get through 2020, but we have no idea what 2021 will bring and what other pressures we will have to deal with. So the moral of the story is that these orangutan populations are vulnerable. The Sumatran orangutan population is under threat. It has problems. Its habitat is still being lost around the edges. We still have the ever-present risk of new roads and infrastructure going into the forests. And there's also the ever-present risk of new diseases. But the disease as well and the economic hardships of communities around the forest edge is also leading to them turning to the forest for extra income. And that includes hunting pressure and increased pressure on logging and on the forest habitat. And we can already see, not just here in Indonesia, but also in South America and elsewhere, a lot of mounting evidence that forest loss rates have increased sharply through the course of 2020 as local communities do seek alternative incomes from the habitat. So if we're not careful, one little outbreak in a population as small as the Tapanuli orangutan, I mean, the Bornean orangutans will probably still be around in 20, 30, 40 years. Sumatrans too, hopefully. But we could lose the Tapanuli orangutan at any time. It would just take the loss of a few individuals per year to render that population on a downward spiral to extinction. So it's not inconceivable that we could see the Pongo tapanuliensis orangutan actually described to science and extinct in the lifetime of some people within the audience today. But to deal with that takes a lot of pressure, a lot of effort from a lot of different people, a lot of different stakeholders. We need governments to make wise decisions and implement sound policies. We need the private sector to, in many cases, alter its behavior and start operating at much improved standards and standard operating procedures to minimize their impact on habitats and wild animal populations. We need people like Jan Martin and Carmeli out there on the ground, sort of fighting to protect these animals, putting out fires when they get going and looking after those that need help. And we need people like the audience today as well to start sharing these stories and help us raise the funding that we need in order to carry out all this important work. So it's one thing to think that the three of us are going to go off and save the orangutan. I don't think that's very likely at all. We've been trying for years and we haven't succeeded. It's going to take a wide range of very different stakeholders to change their behavior and change the way they do things if we're going to have any chance at all. But it especially requires the help of the audience here, people like yourselves. Now, this is a picture of General Kitchener, one of the recruiting posters from World War II in the UK. But because we're at America today, I figured I should swap that and put Uncle Sam up there as well. So all you in the audience have a role to play and help us achieve our goal and secure a future for these three amazing great ape species. With that, I'll say thank you very much. And if anybody wants to know more about our work or get involved, there's our social media details there. Thanks a lot.
Sure, thank you, Ian. That's very interesting story from Ian Singleton from Sumatran Orangutan Conservation Program. So actually, I want to say, sorry, there is a technical issue before, but I want to try summarize what the Ian's mentioned before. That actually there is a really concrete actions like from Ian's mentioned before, like you are doing the rapid assessment, like there is a specialist facilities like such as the cage for quarantine and something like that, and like how the important thing is how the best effort for us like me doing two course of the orangutan. So it's really interesting story, and thank you very much for Ian for your sharing. And next sessions is we are going to the Q&A sessions. Actually, before we are so please, by John Martin, can you open your video? So everyone like Ian and yeah, cool. Yeah. So after already know each other. And for the Q&A sessions, before I will ask to each speaker. In the beginning of the sessions, I have the question for the participant actually. So I want to ask to the each speaker like what happened? Like what happened if there is no orangutan in the world? Can you give like one sentence only? What happened if there is no orangutan in the world? And there's some participant mentioned like, okay, there is no orangutan, so there is no more forest, something like that. And they mentioned some kind of the word, what happened if there is no orangutan. So I will Ian. So what happened, Ian? What if there is no orangutan in the world or in Indonesia?
The first thing, I mean, one of the key things is that they are major seed dispersers. So the forest that you know would be very different in terms of its structure and the species composition. And some of the species that are in those forests right now may not be there anymore, they'd be absent. And some of those species could be extremely high economic value species, such as the durians and the orangutans and whatever, a whole host of things. And some of those could be medicinal species. Some of them may actually harbor a cure for the COVID virus. We just don't know. But you would still have a forest. Some species would be dispersed by other primates, but it would be a very different forest from what you have today.
Oh, wait. So this is from Ian's opinions. What happened if there is no orangutan? So Ian mentioned that because orangutan is a disperser, so it will be like, yeah, still there is a forest, but maybe it's different, right? So I will moving on to the Carmele. So what do you think, Carmele? If there is no orangutan, so what happened?
Yeah, I think it's the $1 million question. It's one of the questions that we get most often. And you know, because I think Ian has already explained it very well. Paja Martin is also explained in his video the importance of orangutans in the ecosystem. I think I'm gonna reply this question with another comment, and I want people to think about this. So if we asked an orangutan, we know that orangutans are so similar to humans. If we asked an orangutan, what happened if there is no human in the world? What do we think that an orangutan will answer? And I think that's my message for people to think of, because maybe we don't have to always think of what is the value to us of a species surviving, but what is also the value of humans in this planet. I think is maybe something to think of.
It's very interesting. Like, so the important is the value of the human. So because like we are in the planet, so we cannot answer. We cannot ask to the orangutan, right? So how about you, orangutan? Because we are as the human to answer it. So thank you, Carmele. So Paja Martin, following the Carmele mentions that in our daily life, like we are living in Jakarta or in the big city, something like that. Because there's a question too from the participants. So what we are yeah, what is the biggest impact if there is no orangutan in Indonesia? So what is the impact for our daily life? Something like that.
Yeah, I think Ian and Carmel already explained it very well, and then you put me in the wrong position now. Very hard to explain.
Yeah,
I just
sure,
want to
sure.
say something like this. I don't want to repeat what Ian and Carmel explained. I got the question like this from one of the governor of Indonesia. I just want to say, the forest is not as good as we have now. Yeah, if there's no
Mhm.
orangutan. And this is about something like if you using the airplane and then you lose one what's the word? What the name in English? Bow, moor.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you lose that, the airplane is not crash immediately. But
Sure.
years by years, disaster will come. I
Mhm.
think this is the impact that we face. For the next generation, we don't have the impact if there's no orang. But in the future, long term, we'll got the problems that we never expect.
Okay, that's great answer from Paja Martin. So there is, so I will ask. This is the question is coming from YouTube. So I think I can ask first to Carmela to answer. So the question is: in this COVID-19 pandemic, like many people have lost their jobs, and does this make them return to the forest to make a living? And then how we protect sorry how we protect the habitat from this harm and still save the orangutan. So because of yeah, like everyone's come back to the hometown and they go to forest and yeah, like doing illegal logging, etc. So what do you think, Carmela?
Yes, I have also mentioned in my presentation about this anthropogenic probably, natural resources. People are losing their livelihoods. It's more likely their only choice to go to the forest, to cut the trees, to hunt animals. I think we can't blame them, because I think maybe very often there's their only choice. And I think Pacha Martin has explained it very well. We can't talk about orangutan conservation to people that are starving, to people that are hungry. And that's why we have to think about the solutions in an integrated way. We are living in the same ecosystem. We have to live in an equilibrium. And if we don't protect this equilibrium between the forest, the ecosystem, the humans, and the animals, if we break this equilibrium, it's very likely that in the long term, it will not work out. So I think that's why it's so important that when we want to protect orangutans, we have to protect the people first.
Oh, that is really that what the Carmela mentioned. So, following that Carmela mentioned, it's very interesting because Jar Martin in the presentation mentioned there is a specific program for the community. So, Jar Martin, what do you think? How's the impact of this pandemic actually for the communities that you is that the Boss Foundation already have the community who living in the nearby the orangutan habitat. So, how's the impact with the community itself, Pak?
Yeah, the first thing when the COVID-19 they don't go to the field planting food and others, we lost some food for the orangutan. Yeah, that's the other
Mm.
one. But for us, that's not the big problem. The big problem coming from the people from the city. They lost their job, city around our center. They lost their job and they're back to the exploitation of the forest. going to forest, cutting the tree, or doing another mining. That's the impact to the environment, not only for the orangutan. That's why the best thing we try to do is give them some activity more uh, environmental friendly, or we lose something. This is not easy during the pandemic. Yeah, this is not easy.
Yeah.
We don't have
Hey.
enough budget. We don't have enough funding, but we have to thinking to minimize impact from the people going to exploit the nature.
Sure. So I will go to the Ian, what the Paja Martin mentioned before, how's the recently that we have this like many challenges to ensure that the community can make a living too, right? So what do you think, Ian, based on your experience in the Sumatran Orangutan Conservation Program, how's the impact for the pandemic to the communities nearby the orangutan habitat in Sumatra?
I think it's difficult to explain the problems for everybody all around every aspect of the habitat. But there are some interesting examples. One that's very noticeable in the Langkat region, on the east side of the Losa ecosystem, is you've basically got monoculture palm oil plantations right up to the edge of the Gunung Losa National Park. And there are communities living there at the edge of the Gunung Losa National Park who have no options to develop livelihoods in these massive monoculture plantations because they get kicked out. But they have no option really but to try and source a livelihood from within the park itself. Now that could be logging, hunting, whatever you like, or it could be tourism or something like that. But I thought this was very interesting because when they were talking, or when the Aceh border was closed down temporarily at the beginning of the pandemic, there was a lot of concern, a lot of discussion about food security in Aceh province, because so much of the agricultural land is producing a monoculture product for export, and very few people are able to eat. So if you have a border lockdown, you really want to be thinking about diversing your agricultural economy to survive such periods, which would offer new opportunities for communities that didn't depend on eking out a livelihood in these national parks.
Mhm. Oh, so I think that the Ian mentions because of like you mentioned there is like food security challenges, and I think the important thing is we have to find like the alternative the food alternative commodities that they can try. It's not the multicultural plantation, right? Because monoculture is one of the big threat too for the orangutans conservations. So for the next question, so it is coming from Facebook. So the question is, are you able to test if any of the orangutans have been infected by COVID-19? So it's very interesting questions. So I think Pak Martin has already smiled. So I will ask to Pak Martin first. What do you think, Pak? Are you able to test if any of orangutan have been infected by COVID-19?
Yeah, even our DNA similar 97% similar with orangutan. The region or everything that fit with the human maybe is not fit or accurate to the orangutan. It's not easy to test it then.
Mhm. You want to add?
Especially with our program, we have 400 orangutan to sedate them, take the some photo from the lung and filter it and then test it. It's not easy. That's why we protect our staff. We tested our staff. This is one health system that very good in the presentation.
Okay, so you want to add Carmele or Ian about these questions? Like maybe you have any reference like how we can test it when for the orangutan have been infected by COVID-19?
I
You
think it's
want to
better.
add it?
Carmela being a vet is probably the best.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Ian. Actually, I think Paja Martin's answer was very good. Again, it's a new disease. We are even now trying to find out how it affects humans, how best to test it. Orangutans are very, very similar to humans, but we don't know if the diagnostic tests that are being used in humans are also feasible in orangutans, especially this rapid test. The only potential way that we have to test this through PCR testing. But again, as Pacha Martin explained, is difficult, it's costly, and it is not an easy thing to do. The best we can do is to try to protect the orangutans, and we just hope that as we know that this disease is giving different symptoms in different people, in children or in elderly people, and that it seems to be a very important immunity factor, right? Even though Ian explained very well about this receptor that is very similar in orangutans and in humans, the ACE2 receptor. We want to hope that maybe orangutans might have some natural immunity, as this is this virus jump into humans. We want to hope that orangutans will have a strong immunity to survive this disease, but at this stage we don't know, so that's why we have to take all precautions.
Sure. Yeah, you want to add?
A test is only really it's as useful as what you plan to do when you get the result. And I think it's important to remember that if you test negative today, it doesn't tell you anything about your condition tomorrow. And you're essentially throwing a lot of money down the drain unless you have a plan of what to do if you get a positive result or a negative.
Yeah, that's right. So actually so everyone's like now trying to find the best deal with COVID-19, and hopefully that there is no orangutan can be get infected by the coronavirus. So the precaution is a must, right? So now all of the organization trying to prevent the transmissions from the orangutan to the from the human to the orangutan, something like that. So the next questions is I think it's following the Carmele presentation before that you mentioned about forest fire. So actually now in Indonesia, especially that we have is like currently the situation is the like double strike of the disaster. It's not only about COVID-19, but also there is a forest fire. So what do you think about each of you, like with the double strike disaster, with the COVID-19 and also the forest fire? So what is the best effort that you want to try to prevent? Because it's not only coming from the COVID-19, but also the forest fire. So how's the best effort that you can explain to the participant now about the double strike disaster? So maybe I can ask to the Ian first.
Yeah, I'm fortunate to be one of the three of us that doesn't really work in an area that's so prone to forest fires. A much bigger issue these days in Kalimantan with the vast peatlands and the fact that there's still a lot of large-scale forest clearing going on. But when it comes to fires, I always try and remind people about the economics. Indonesia is already in a financial crisis, dealing with, as with every other country in the world, dealing with this COVID virus. And I remember a World Bank report that looked into the costs to Indonesia as a state resulting from the 2015 fires. And they concluded that in terms of lost income, in terms of like lost flights, lost hotel rooms, medical expenses, losses to agriculture, because remember during these fires, even your palm oil doesn't see the sun for 6 months and your yields are going to be massively impacted. But the World Bank concluded that the cost of the fires to Indonesia in 2015 was around 16 billion US dollars. Now compare that to the official revenue that the country gets from the industry of about $8 billion a year. So what I'm saying is that there's no. I always wonder whether there's an economic argument for these industries that cause these fires. The plantation industries, whether they're palm oil or other acacia or whatever, because the numbers don't seem to back that up. But it's extremely worrying as well at a time when the economy is already under such massive pressure due to the COVID pandemic.
Sure. Thank you, Ian. So this is very important information that is coming from the World Bank, right? So I want to ask to the Carmele or Pak Martin, you want to add what is the questions coming before? Like how's your organization trying to figure out the double strike disaster? It's not only COVID and also forest fire. So you want to try, Pak Martin?
Yeah, fighting with the COVID already take our energy and everything that we have. And if there is a fire coming again, it's a disaster for us. 2 years ago, there's a fire. Yeah, mostly fire happened in East Kalimantan and Central Kalimantan, yeah, and the
Yeah.
pit. For us who work in the orangutan, the impact of fire is not only lost the tree, but loss of bee. When the fire coming, in the pit, there's a smoke there, and the bee will gone. When there is no bee, there is no pollination. When there is no pollination, there is a there is no food production for the orangutan in the forest because orangutan eat fruit, right? Yeah, that's a big problem for us for walking in the forest if the fire in the pit with the smoke coming.
Okay, so what Pak Martin mentioned before, like it's like the change of what happened if there is forest fire happened and how's about the orangutan. So Carmela, do you want to add what the Ian and also Pak Martin mentioned before?
Yeah, maybe just quickly a personal reflection. Fires for us are really stressful. We have had really hard times. It's our worst nightmare. It's not been yet a year. It was August, September last year when we had really bad fires around the center and around many of the sites we run in Kalimantan. And less than a year after, then we started this COVID crisis. I think it's one crisis after another. I think it's this. It takes a psychological toll as well, not only financially, but also. And I think it's we are so happy that it's raining. That this year we are not having a long dry season in our part of Kalimantan because we don't want to have to face again another dry season and another fire season.
Cool. So I think that all of the challenges like now is like we have to survive, right? Survive from COVID-19, and also we have to try to prevent all of the challenges, obstacle like the forest fire, and hopefully there is no forest fire again this year, hopefully, and the next year too. And we have like 1 minute left for the Q&A session. So for my last questions, like I want to ask each of you only one sentence. So what is like how can we best help to conserve orangutan? Because recently that there is also many questions coming from the participants like, okay, I'm a millennial, so what we have to give best help to conserve orangutan? So I will ask to first one Carmele, and then Paja Martin, and the last one Ian. So please Carmele.
Yeah, very simple. I don't think that everyone has to go to Kalimantan to fight the fires or to do anything hands-on. But I think everybody can help financially. I think this is the very easy way. You can be anywhere in the world and you can contribute financially. It doesn't matter whether it's $1 or 100 or 1,000,000. Everything really helps and everything counts.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. So you mentioned it's like how we can donate to conserve the orangutan. So we cannot go to the Kalimantan or Sumatra. We can donate like $1 or everything that we can have. So the next one, Paja Martin. So what is the best help we can try to have to conserve orangutan?
Make donation and then use your smartphone. Yeah.
Why Pak? Smartphone Pak.
Now it's a millennial era. Everybody has a smartphone. I hope everybody use your smartphone smarter than before. Yeah, using 1 minute, just like, share to your friends about the information, the good information from our works to everybody. Maybe someone out there will give donation or sharing it again to others, and it make a lot of people will aware there is some people in the front line fighting to protect the orang. Be smarter than your smartphone.
Cool. So Paja Martin mentioned the smartphone is the key. We can share everything from the smartphone, right? But So the last, Ian. So how we can best help to conserve orangutan?
I would say simply make your voice heard. A lot of the damage is being done by sort of poor governance or bad policies or bad decisions. The business sector, the private sector, still carrying out and using procedures that are outdated and too destructive. But they don't change. Governments and the private sector do not change unless they are forced to. And the only people that can force them to change is the public at large, either by writing, by sharing, by commenting, writing newspaper articles, by writing letters to companies, to politicians themselves. But the most important thing is get your voice heard. You can also do that in your consumer spending. You can help by donating funds. But I totally agree with John Martin there. Just getting on there, sharing, posting, likes. I know myself from personal experience, they've made a lot of difference. The media as well will when they publish an article about an environmental issue, if they see they get a lot of likes and tweets and stuff about that article, they'll write another one next week. And if they get nothing, they won't. So the media monitors social media, and social media drives what the newspapers and TV, what they put out. And that influences government and private sector and everybody. So it does make a difference. Get out there, spread the word, make your feelings felt, and share, like, and tweet, and donate, and do whatever else you're able to do.
Sure, cool. Thank you so much, Ian, Carmele, and by John Martin. So we're already done with the Q&A sessions. So I will try to summarize what we have to discuss today. So actually, I tried to summarize. There are 5 key highlights for today's discussions. So the first one is the battle plan for fighting the COVID-19 with the disease risk analysis, and the most challenges are disease and logistic challenge, is like operational costs and etc. And the second one is how we prevent the pandemic with One Health approach, like Carmele mentioned before, to synchronize between environmental, human, and animal health. And the third one is the effort to prevent the COVID-19 with 4R. I put it from the presentation from Ian, like rapid production, rapid constructions, rapid procurement, and rapid increase of fundraising. And the fourth point is like the important role of the orangutan as a disease disperser. So it will be correlated with the human, it's like the food security in the future. And the last one is about the call to actions. There is 3 call to action for our speaker. So the first one is just give it a donation to help the orangutan. And the second one is the sharing information as much as you can. And the last one is make your voice heard. Okay, thank you everyone. So all of our summary today, I want to say thank you for the speaker. Thank you so much, Pa Ian, Carmele, and also Pa John Martin for today's discussion. It's really interesting. And thank you so much for all of the participants that we have. Participants coming from our platform, Facebook, Twitter, and also Instagram and Facebook. And we have to end the discussions. But if you have any questions or you want to know more about the orangutan, just go to the website or social media from the Post Foundations, ER Indonesia, or SOGP official, right? So thank you so much. I'm Ristika from Lingkar Temu Kabupaten Lestari, and thank you and happy World Orangutan Day. So see you for the next webinar, and I over to Ika. Thank you.
Thank you to our moderator and also all of our speakers for sharing the great session tonight with America TV. So guys, back again with me, Fifi. So earlier in the event, I have asked you guys a quiz question for tonight. And the question is, true or false, orangutans have immense arm spans ranging 7 feet from tip to tip? And the answer is yes, true. On the rare occasion that orangutans actually stand upright, their hands nearly brush the ground. Wow. And we already have the winner for the question for tonight. And congratulations to @Dharmatasya21 from Instagram for answering correctly. And thank you to everyone who has participated. Don't forget to tune in again next time and get a chance to get a shout out from us. And now you may be wondering, how can you develop an idea for a place like this? Don't worry, easy. Just go to our website at www.atamerica.or.ed and go to collaborate with us, go to create an event. All events proposals coming to us will be reviewed and your event might be featured here soon. And don't forget to follow our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and don't forget to follow subscribe to our YouTube channel and subscribe to our newsletter also at our website at www.atmerica.or.id. And thank you to everyone for joining tonight with At America TV. See you next time.